Hey, what's up? This is Sea-Dog from Jay Dragons Productions. As many of you already know, but some of you most likely, all my new listeners obviously don't, or watchers obviously don't. My story with Xbox goes, and the Xbox brand in general goes pretty far back. I never had an original Xbox, and I didn't really get my first Xbox 360 until about 2010. But in that time since, I've become familiar with some of the Xbox brand's best exclusives: Halo, Gears of War, and Fable. Now, I didn't really get heavily into those franchises, or at least heavily interested in them, until I got my Xbox One, and that was back in 2015. Since then, a lot has really changed. For the Xbox One, the Xbox One has been doing very terrible, or not terrible, but it's been doing, it has been underperforming compared to the PS4 for pretty much the entire generation since 2013. Part of it was Microsoft's DRM policies, and another part of it, I think, was their over-reliance on Kinect games from about 2010 to 2012 at the end of the Xbox 360's lifespan. Well, it's my cat, Fluffy. Hi, Fluffy. But yeah, aside from that, I think that the Xbox brand has really suffered as a result of these setbacks. And now, the Halo games the Halo series is one of my favorite gaming franchises. I've been a Halo fan since I was about, Fluffy's getting feisty there. I've been a Halo fan since I was about 13. That's when I started playing the story mode. I didn't really get heavily into the Halo series until a few years later, but as a re-Christian Halo fan, I have really, or since I started getting into Halo and the franchise in general, I have really seen how great and really appreciated it for what it is. I play Halo's multiplayer at least a few good times a month, and yeah, I really love it, the series. Now, unfortunately, lately, for the past decade pretty much, the Halo franchise has been suffering due to decline. And because of that decline, it has been doing too good. Now, ever since about Halo 4, which was back in 2012 on the 360s, most of you should know, that's when the series started going really downhill. And Halo 5 didn't really help things. Some people, including myself, kind of liked the multiplayer, but honestly, it wasn't really a great Halo game. It was just it had a fun multiplayer, but it wasn't a Halo game by heart. And I feel like for the next Halo game, Halo Infinite, 343 Industries really needs to, the developer, of course, really needs to improve their reputation by, not only their reputation, but Microsoft and Xbox brand, the Halo franchise in general, by making Halo Infinite have a classic gameplay style. I think that even something as seemingly minuscule as Sprint really detracts from the classic Halo formula. I really do believe that. And I also believe clamber and jetpacking around, thrusting around, it shouldn't belong in Halo at all either. The game's fun should be simple and based off of, I'm not saying casual, but the gameplay mechanics should be simple is what I'm trying to imply. And the game should have, and 343 needs to undo the mess that they have created by appealing to other and looking for inspiration to other franchises instead of focusing on what has made Halo great in the first place. But if for Halo Infinite they can start a new trend of looking back to the older games, for game, how the Holy Triangle, shooting, grenading, and melee was based off of was more or less pointed along with and was used along with open maps that where you can utilize the map and shoot. I think that would be great if they did that. If they made a classic style Halo game whose core gameplay was based off of the map rather than the gameplay mechanics that the player controls, if that makes any sense. Now, aside from that, though, I think 343 definitely needs to look to inspiration from them. But aside from that, Gears of War is another established IP that I kind of mentioned earlier that really needs to be reformed. Now, 343 obviously has nothing to do with Gears of War. That's under the jurisdiction of the Coalition, the developer, another developer, internal studio that Microsoft has created to run it, to run one of their franchises. Now, the interesting thing is the Coalition did okay with Gears of War 4, but it wasn't perfect. It was far from perfect, and it underperformed significantly. With Gears 5, they took a complete 180 and really brought it down to the tubes. I mean, Gears 5 is dead now. I can only find a match on certain times of the day, and I don't know. Gears 5, it's just weird, man. They increased the bullet magnetism and did all sorts of weird, crazy things with the coding in that. And I think that part of the reason why glitches and bugs are so common in multiplayer in the game, and lag too, is because of the fact that they added all this extra stuff that they didn't really need to. I mean, you're not supposed to fix what's broke, right? But yeah. Aside from that, I really think that the Coalition needs to look to the previous Gears of War games as inspiration. The first three is what I mostly mean, especially the first two. But yeah, I think that 343 and the Coalition making classic gameplay style Halo and Gears games going forward for Project Scarlet, the next Xbox system, would be great, and was what is necessary for those two franchises and for the Xbox brand in general survival. Now, Playground Games is rumored to be developing a Fable game. We don't really know for sure. We haven't heard out of the horse's mouth, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. But if it is indeed true, and it is indeed Microsoft's worst-kept secret, then that means that Fable fans should rejoice. But in my personal opinion, I never really cared for the original Fable trilogy, and a lot of people, I like it, but it's just not one of my favorite franchises, along with up there with Halo, and it's certainly not up there with Halo and Gears of War. But when I think of Xbox IPs, I can look back to, but they're definitely good games nonetheless, or at least the first two are. But if Playground Games is developing a Fable reboot, that's the one IP out of those three where I don't mind them taking certain cues from more popular franchises, certain ones, and bringing them into it. Because I feel like Halo and Gears of War, because they're shooters, and because especially because the online multiplayer, plays such a big importance, I feel like it is far more important for those two franchises to receive the classic treatment. And they've always been great the way they were. But Fable has always had this problem, even in the original trilogy. Fable has never really been like a super grandiose game. It's always been sort of a niche-y series. It's been a very niche series, unlike Halo and Gears of War, which were very well-known, well-renowned, because they were so great, I feel like. But Fable, I think Fable Playground Games needs to really reboot it and start from scratch. I think the setting, Albion, should be the same, or at the very least similar. But I think the idea of an open world Fable game would be really neat. Of open world RPG, Western RPG Fable game. I think that'd be really fun, especially if they took certain cues from like The Witcher or the Elder Scrolls series. Certain, if they took certain ideas but sort of molded them into their own versions, that would be really cool, I think. But yeah, now real quick, I just want to talk about another thing on my wish list before I conclude this video, which is the idea for Ninja Theory making a new IP. For all we know, they could be making Hellblade 2, but personally, I don't think so. I think they're working on a new IP. If this new IP is being made, this hypothetical new IP, then I think what should happen is Ninja Theory should make it. They should make an action adventure hack and slash game similar to Hellblade, but it should also put more emphasis on combat. See, the thing I didn't like about Hellblade was the combat just, it's too repetitive and just not fun. I feel like they need to, really work on the combat for their next game, but I do like the immersion in Hellblade, and I wish they would, or at least I hope that they, placed a lot of emphasis on that on their next single player title as well. So yeah, in conclusion, I think the Xbox division of Microsoft really has a lot of work to do in order to make this brand great again. See you guys next time. Peace out.